written by Trudy Truitt, also the awesome illustrations by Scott Plume. The Nebula Secret is the first book in the new Explorer Academy series published by National Geographic Kids Books. We love National Geographic Kids Books, and this book, The Nebula Secret, has got me all stuck in there up at night and wanting to increase my brain and go out and play in the ocean. The book dives deep into ocean exploration and brings together a diverse multicultural cast of characters for a thrilling quest that combines science-based fact with futuristic fun. Everyone has a 3D, not a 3D printer, a 4D printer in the rooms at the Academy. I'm just saying, that's where we're going. We have two special guests joining us on Big Blend Radio today to talk about the Nebula Secret as well as the National Geographic Explorer Academy and National Geographic Explorers. And we're so excited. We have David Gruber joining us. He's a National Geographic Emerging Explorer, a marine biologist, a coral reef and photosynthesis expert, underwater photographer. Yeah, he knows all about those beautiful sea turtles in the Solomon Islands. Yep. And also Becky Baines is the Vice President and Editorial Director of National Geographic Kids. She's back on the show as well. Welcome, David. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us, Lisa.
Hey, very excited. And Becky, it's good to have you back. I know you were on our show previously talking about National Geographic Kids, Bet You Didn't Know, and National Geographic Kids Famous Fails. Both books are some of our favorites here. So welcome back. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me back on.
Hey, this is exciting. When you think about National Geographic Explorers, you know, reading the books, watching TV productions, National Geographic has taken us around the world and opened our minds, opened our eyes, and really taught us so much. David, can you tell us a little bit about what got you into the world of National Geographic and, you know, becoming a marine biologist as well?
Well, just like the main character in this book, Cruz Coronado, I felt like I went to an Explorer Academy. One day I was home and I got an email from National Geographic that I've been elected to join their cast of emerging explorers. And I went to the society and just met this fantastic cast of people who discovered new dinosaur species, other explorers that were coming up with little micro drones, underwater explorers, people studying tigers. And that was my entry in 2014 into the world of National Geographic.
Wow, that's so awesome. Is so exciting. We've had some similar experiences as that, and I think once you start to realize what the world is like out there, then you get addicted, right? Is that how it is for you? Like, do you keep getting out into the ocean, like you can't stop kind of thing once it starts?
Yeah, I started out as a kid. I just absolutely loved surfing. Also very similar to the character in the Explorer Academy, Nebula Secret, and I just really liked, the adventure and surfing waves. But as I went through school, I began to learn more, and I began to learn all these amazing secrets of the ocean, like how the waves break, and I had to learn some of the physics, and then I wanted to learn about the biology of all these animals swimming under me. And really, ever since that time as a teenager, I've completely dedicated my life to exploring, understanding, and protecting the ocean.
We need more of you out there because, I think the ocean is really dictating what's also happening to us on land, right? When we look at what we're doing in the world of plastics in the ocean, but also just looking at, we are very connected to the ocean. Whatever we do here affects the ocean, and whatever happens to the ocean affects us, right? It's a closed system.
It is. We are so connected to the ocean in ways that we can't even imagine. I mean, we come from the ocean. We have remnants of sea creatures even in our ears. So our relatives are fish, these fish called lungfish or Copterigians. So, the other thing is that the ocean gives us about half of our oxygen. So it's almost like the lung of the planet, and it's 3/4 of the world is covered with ocean. So it's really a blue planet rather than a land planet. And we are so connected. But what's exciting on the exploration front is that it's only been, a few decades that humans have had the opportunity to even get deep into the ocean and begin to meet some of these sea creatures that are beneath us. And even something like sperm whales, these absolutely magnificent animals with the largest brain, as far as we know, in the universe. And they're talking to each other in a series of codas and clicks, and beginning to use like code encrypting things like AI to start even better understanding what these animals are saying. And they've been living in the ocean so long without really, negatively impacting it. So we have so much to learn from them.
It's exciting to me.
They don't require all the stuff humans seem to require.
Yeah, except for, keeping it clean for them. Becky, this is so exciting when you're talking about AI. We're looking at artificial intelligence. I know the robotics have to do with things. And, I was talking about we have a 3D printer, a 4D printer in the rooms. When you think about the Explorer Academy in the book, The Nebula Secret, this is so exciting because Cruz Coronado, he's a surfer dude, and there's some mystery going on too in this. So seriously, it's like Nancy Drew move over. Like this is like a whole new world here. Not that I want to, I love Nancy, but Cruz Coronado going to this academy, it was a really big deal. And kids from all walks of life. He's 12 years old. But they're already looking at code, and they're looking at, their brains are incredible. I think that it's very exciting because I don't think much has been written for kids that are into, making their own drones and things like that.
Yes, it's Nancy Drew for the next generation. What's so cool about this book is our hero Cruz is just kind of an ordinary kid. He likes to surf, but he's super laid back. He's also super smart, which a lot of kids, we joke around about how they're the ones who are fixing our iPhones and fixing our computers because kids know so much more about technology than a lot of the parents do. And this book seems so fantastical on the fiction front because of all the kind of science-y fiction technology that's in there. I mean, things like 4D printers and stuff we know exist, but Cruz has his little sidekick is a honeybee drone named Mel, and Mel follows Cruz everywhere, and she gets him out of a few jams sometimes. She can shoot video, and she's kind of like a cool little toy / pet that he owns. And then you find out that like these tiny little drones, these little bee drones, are something that scientists have actually developed. And that's what makes this series so layered, is that we actually have these real scientists and explorers that are working on these cutting edge things that are making our world like a better place. And that's where we've been able to work with our explorers and hand in hand and learn from them and learn about these endeavors that they're embarking on, these places they're going, these things they're discovering, and being able to incorporate that into our story. And then in the back of the book, you actually get to learn, hey, this thing that seems totally outrageous and totally cool is actually a real thing that people are working on, or maybe a real thing in the future, or something that exists, but it's kind of realized in this book at its full potential that may happen in the next couple of decades. So it's kind of taking that fiction, but actually showing where it's based in reality. And that's an aspect that you don't get in a lot of fiction books.
Right.
We say when we're talking about a school that kids can go to, a lot of people like to compare it to Harry Potter. And we like to say, kids can't grow up to be wizards, but they can grow up to be explorers. And so, it's a real goal that these kids can achieve.
I think it's exciting because it puts science at the forefront too, and that's something that is really important, that we understand science. And I think there's a lot of fear in the world regarding science and AI and robotics. There's a lack of understanding. And, we can't do that to the youth and the future generation. They're in it, man. Like you're saying, they want to fix things. They want to do things. They're fascinated by it, not just boys, but girls too. And it's, to me, I think this is a way for kids to get into the story, understand where their understanding of all of this is, and what does it mean to them, but also communicate with their their peers, but also their parents, and kind of broaden that discussion, don't you think, Becky, for the youth and understanding science?
Yes, I definitely think so. And it goes beyond science. There's actually a lot of history. There's a lot of geography in this book because we didn't think it was right. These kids are explorers. We didn't want them to have to be kind of, tethered to this brick and mortar school. So the school actually takes place on board a ship. So after book one, they're kind of going through their training in book one. They're on board a ship, and their classroom is these expeditions they go on. Their teachers are these explorers and these scientists that they're learning from. So they're going to the real world places, and all the places they go to in the book are real. All the locations they go to are real. There's little history kind of nuggets thrown throughout, but it's not, kids can kind of spot a phony a mile away. So it's not like the lessons are being kind of injected in there. They're really interwoven into the story in a way that enhances and works to accelerate the narrative so that it makes the learning aspect of it really fun. And you brought up a good point when you said it's not just for boys, because a lot of people hear, oh, the main character is boy. It's really, science and technology, but there's so many girls that are into this sort of stuff. And we actually have a diverse cast of characters, and Cruz's two best friends in this book are Lonnie and Sailor, and they're two girls, 12, 13-year-old girls who are just absolutely my favorite characters. I actually think I like them better than the main character because they're so funny and they're so savvy, and, they can outsmart anyone in this book. And, it kind of serves the purpose to show you that girls can kind of just get out there and they can do anything. And I think the whole message is really empowering. And of course, there is kind of this deadly, dangerous mission throughout as well, because kids need that, kind of page turning, edge of your seat action to keep you hooked.
That's cool.
I know.
We need that.
I know. And it is empowering. I think it's great because of the dynamics between all the characters. I mean, there's competition, there's jealousy, there's like, oh man, I have to stand up and face this if I did this wrong. There's all these different things that kids are going through, especially at that time, 12 and 13 years old. That's when things are starting to change, and you're discovering who you are, when you're going to stand up to something, or when you're going to run. Are you going to deal with it? I don't want to give the story away, but there's clues and riddles throughout. And I love the illustrations. It just makes it, to me, this opens your imagination. And I think that's what the ocean does. There's something about that, David. Wouldn't you agree that, the more we discover, the more, it's almost like there's no end to this connection we have with the ocean, and, what we can do to coexist and help both sides, right? That unification.
Exactly. There's so much to learn, and there's so much lessons in the ocean. Each time we begin to learn new things about new animals, we're learning their history and their story, and for us, we're just one of millions of species, and these other species have been around for so much longer than us. And I think one of the beautiful things about this book is it really hits on the head in terms of modeling the explorer's attitude of curiosity, responsibility, and empowerment, which is something so important to me, because it's not just about exploring and exploring for the sake of exploring. It's about having this sense of curiosity, but also recognizing that we are so powerful now as a species. We are far more powerful than any species in the ocean, including sharks. With that responsibility comes an understanding. We have to be the real stewards of the ocean, and that really comes across in the lessons that are portrayed.
And also, when you look at the work that you do, number one, discovering the first biofluorescent sea turtle in the Solomon Islands, and that's amazing. I'm just saying, that is it. What was that like? I mean, because we seem to be reading about new species every day, and I don't know if it is from climate change or we just haven't discovered them. What's going on? Because it seems like there's new and old species coming through.
Yeah, well, first off, with that discovery, I always like to think that glowing sea turtle actually discovered me rather than me discovering it. I felt like a little bit of like an Inspector Gadget down there. I was studying corals one night, and I was in this crocodile-infested, really remote part of the Solomon Islands, And as we were photographing the corals, which we already knew had this just beautiful fluorescent property where it absorbs blue light and shines back out other colors, this sea turtle swam and literally just bumped into my lens, and we were just staring head to head with each other. And on my screen, I could just see that this turtle had the same properties as the corals, that it was able to absorb blue light and give off these reds and greens. And that was the first time we had known that. And that showed me also how little we really know about sea turtles, because I started looking into the literature, and we don't know that much about how sea turtles see and what their vision is like. So that led me on this long journey to actually make a sea turtle camera. So a camera that sees just like a sea turtle, so I could get behind the world and and really feel what this turtle is feeling. And I think that's what exploring is really about now. It's about connection to these animals. And to your question about finding new species, I mean, there are millions of species, and lots of times, if you think about the ocean, we've not been going in it that long, and especially we've not been going deep that long. So every time we send a submarine down to the inky depths, it's very, very possible that we're going to bump into an organism that we've just never seen before.
It's interesting. As a kid, my parents took us out rock hounding, and I remember finding shark teeth in the Mojave Desert, and that just always blew my mind. Yeah, because we were either at the desert looking for rocks, or we were at the coast swimming during the summertime. But I never connected the two, even though I'd read about it, until I found shark teeth. And then there was another rock, I think they called it coquina, which was like a black rock with little white, like sea teeth, like shrimp and skeletons of little sea creatures embedded in the rock. And then you start connecting the desert to the coast and realizing that there used to be an ocean there, and there isn't anymore. Because how else did the shark teeth get there?
I feel like that every time we go on a hike out here. We're in Tucson right now in Saguaro, and go through Saguaro National Park, and you have the giant saguaro cactus. You've got the ocotillos, which to me are like sea kelp. And all the the prickly pears. I'm like, that's the coral, man. And then all of a sudden, here comes a desert, a tortoise, and I'm like, no, dude, you want to go swimming in the ocean? I know you do, man. It's so bizarre to have that connection, and people think I'm weird, but I feel like I'm in the ocean every day.
We would love you at Explorer Academy. That's the nice thing about these series and about being part of National Geographic Explorers is that kind of attitude and questioning that you're doing. Is like everybody in the society is just really just gets energized by all these riddles and all these questions. Where do we come from? What did the Earth look like? We were one big supercontinent, Pangea, at one point, and we spread apart, and you could put these plates together and they look like a puzzle. And there's just so much puzzle solving that we could do in terms of understanding this just beautiful 4.6 billion years that our little strange rock has existed.
Man, see, it's a trip. To me, it is. I love this that this whole idea, Explorer Academy. I want to go. Okay, I don't care what age I am. I want in. Becky, come on, you've got the pass, don't you? Let me in.
I feel like I can. We invented the world. I feel like we can just bend the rules, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Come on now. Yeah, why not?
You're in. I just accepted you. Well, welcome to the Academy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Yay. The one thing too about, the Nebula Secret, what I love is, okay, so we're getting into this futuristic talk, and you're saying that, okay, the drone thing, this has occurred, this is part of it. And David, going back into your work, developing these cameras, like you talk about the shark eye camera, and then, okay, so there's this squishy robot fingers, like I just want to go play with that because it just sounds like fun. But when we look at these kinds of things, looking at AI, and robotics, right? Going into the ocean. Sometimes my immediate thing goes, I don't want to put anything in the ocean. However, it's about using these concepts and a way to protect the ocean and learn without being invasive to the species, right?
That's exactly. And if we look at the history of exploration, it was really about, going out and just collecting as much and hanging it on the wall. And I think when I speak to kids, and I recently gave a talk to several thousand fifth graders, I could just feel the energy in the room. They are much more interested in connecting with these animals and learning about them than they are with, putting them in jars or hanging them on the wall. And, something that you mentioned, the robots, and what so almost feels like my Explorer Academy moment is when I was at National Geographic, I met Rob Wood, who's a Harvard roboticist who's featured in this book, and who's Mel, the little micro robot is kind of framed after. And he was presenting his talk on his little flying robots, and I presented my talk on my exploration into the deep sea. But afterwards, he kind of came up to me and he said, there's this new kind of robotics that would be really useful for your work. It's soft, squishy robots. And I kind of gave him a sideways glare. What are these squishy robots? We never heard of such a thing. And National Geographic funded this project. And literally 3 years later, we're in a submarine. And inside the submarine, we have a glove on. And outside the submarine are these squishy little arms that we could delicately interact with things as gentle as a jellyfish and study it and let it go, so we don't even have to bring it to the surface. So it's like kind of using this technology in a way to connect and not be invasive. And that's one of the beauties of combining technology now today.
Do you find ever people who just can't or refuse to believe in this kind of science? I'm just thinking, when I was a kid and we went to the moon, my grandfather swore up and down that it was baloney, it couldn't happen. And I think he died on his deathbed. He still did not believe that humans went to the moon. He just couldn't get there in his mind. And I'm wondering, do you ever run up against that kind of attitude?
As humans, we're such, you've got to see it to believe it creatures. Unless we see something with our own eyes, it's hard for us to believe. And I think that's really what, the storytelling and the exploration of National Geographic is really about. It's about, bringing people with us on these journeys and having them see these things with their first eyes and having them be explorers themselves. We're all explorers, deep inside. So, yeah, I trust that, in a way it's almost good to be skeptical and until you're really presented with, thorough proof. So yeah, it is, curiosity and skepticism are all healthy, but I do think once you see something with your own eyes, it really resonates.
It's exciting to me, I think. And Becky, putting this together with a book, I know that there's another one coming out, so this is like a series. I know you like weird things, but did you learn anything weird from this experience? So I have to.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much weird stuff from this experience. Well, I think most of the weird things I learned is the stuff that the technology that we're actually working on. I have a funny story actually about David when I met him for the first time in New York. In the second book, this is the first book, The Nebula Secret is the first book in a 7-book series that you can buy now, makes a great Christmas present. The second book is coming out in March. It's called The Falcon's Feather. In the second book, there's this really beautiful scene where Cruz actually goes out with some divers. They find a pod of whales that are tangled in some nets, and they're helping to release these whales. And Cruz is working with some experimental technology with a helmet that actually allows him to communicate with the whales. And I was explaining this to David, and David said, well, actually, we're working on something like that. And to me, that was so unbelievable. Like, that was just something purely out of fantasy. And of course, the author, Trudy Truitt, knew it and had read up on this sort of technology that scientists and researchers are exploring. But to me, that the fact that we can maybe start to communicate with these types of animals one day completely blows my mind. But, also aside from that, there's also, I think you had mentioned there's codes and secrets and clues layered throughout. Cruz's mom and his aunt. His mom, part of the story is that she passed away when he was young in a mysterious accident, and she left behind some codes and clues to put together. And both his mom and his aunt were cryptographers, and his aunt is a professor at the academy, and Cruz has been taught cryptography. And so you kind of learn this art of code breaking. And so we've input some codes throughout the text and illustrations that kids can find and crack for themselves. And if they go online to our website, which is kids.nationalgeographic.com/Explore Academy, or they just go to our regular website and search for Explore Academy, you can learn all about Caesar ciphers and Morse code and semaphore and stuff like that. So I had a lot of fun learning about historic coding because I'm a nerd like that. So there was all sorts of fun stuff for me to learn.
Well, I'm totally geeking out on this whole conversation and the book, and I'm so glad there's 7 books in the series. And everyone, you can go get it now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the great places that you can buy books online. Go get it. And I love that your website's always so interactive with, where there's like this follow-up. And, once you're geeking out on something, you want to full-on geek out. You know what I mean? You want to keep going. So there's always those extra resources that you do at National Geographic. Becky, do you ever see this becoming some kind of TV series that's like in a way interactive that way?
Yes. So this is the first property at Nat Geo Kids that we're developing as a real 360 property, meaning books. It's in Nat Geo Kids magazine. We have a huge website for it with all sorts of videos there. There's even a YouTube short cartoon that we have right now that's really cute. And if that's a good way for you to introduce your kids to the series, it's really entertaining. And right now we're talking to some TV developers, and we're hoping to make it a TV show. And then, we don't want to jinx ourselves too much, but there's always the major motion picture thing, which is, of course, the end goal. So, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Look for it in theaters. Let's just say 2024.
Let's go. Cool. I know it'll happen. It'll happen.
Awesome.
It's like move over Aquaman. From Nancy Drew and Aquaman, you're all moving over. Okay, before you both go, I want to know, you're going to go out in a submarine, okay? We can bring Ringo Starr if you want. Sorry. I have a thing about going in a submarine. That's got to be so cool. But you're going to go out exploring, okay, in a place you've never been, and you get to take one person with you to learn from, okay? So who would that be for you, David? That someone they could be alive, passed on now, but you're going to go exploring with.
Wow, I'm going to go explore with one person. Who would it be? Right now, I just there's Sylvia Earle at the National Geographic Society. She's an explorer in residence and just such a huge inspiration to me. She was one of the first women to go to the deepest depths of the ocean back in her day, and she's known as her deepness. I just saw her the other night, and really, really just so inspired me. So yeah, I would love to bring her with me.
Awesome. Cool. What about you, Becky?
I'm just going to say there's a reason I sit behind a desk and work at National Geographic, and I'm not out there exploring the ocean. So I'm going to take David Gruber, because someone's going to need to steer the sub while I'm like passed out in the back.
I know. So there it is. Yeah, right. Come on, it's not that bad, at all. Also, there it is. There it is. And then also, Nancy, what about you? I just know the answer here. Who are you going exploring with?
David Attenborough.
I knew it. She's taking David Attenborough. And I would like to take Gerald Durrell, because I grew up.
Oh, My Family and Other Animals. I love that book.
Isn't it the best? I mean, and then James Herriot too. I know he's not into exploring as much, but I want James Herriot. Yeah, Jacques Cousteau, and his daughter and grandkids are doing so much right now still. So I think once you're out there, you don't go back. So anyway, we can take armbands with us. Okay, Becky, we can do that. We can take armbands just in case. But thank you both for joining us. Everybody, again, go get the Nebula Secret. It's the Explorer Academy series by Trudy Truitt, and published through National Geographic Kids Books, and of course everywhere. You can get it online. And we want to thank our sponsor of today's show is Supercamp, the world leader in summer academic achievement programs. Check them out at supercamp.com. And here's our music for today, because, hey, our character is a surfer dude in Hawaii.
There you go.
And so this is Kaena Dream, and I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but it's from our good friend Makana, and you can go to his website, makanamusic.com. He's a slack key player and guitar player, and it's from his album Ripe. So here it is, Kaena Dream. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it out here where the water's clear. Early in the morning, just before the break of dawn, I get in the ocean, surfing with the rising sun. I love it out here where the water's clear. Catch another wave and free your mind. I love it out here where the water's clear. Catch another wave and free your mind. Down at Puppet Day, where the girls are mighty fine. Cruising at tomatoes, sipping on a glass of wine. I love it out here where the air is clear. Take another breath and free your mind. I love it out here where the air is clear. Take another breath and free your mind. Letting go of the world I know to be here. Buddy got a new job, working at the big space station. He took a little pay cut, but he did it for the great location. Brother said, I love it up here where the view is clear. Take another look and free your mind. I love it up here where the view is clear. Take another look and free your mind. I love it out here where the water's clear. Catch another wave and free your mind. I love it out here where the air is clear. Take another breath and free your mind.